Welcome to Williamsburg. Williamsburg to me represents change and creativity. When I first moved here, I knew nothing about Williamsburg. I didn't even know what a hipster was, you know, now look at me. But we just found a random apartment, we moved in. I was here to live my dream of being a musician, to make it in a band, and then my whole life changed completely. I mean, starting with music and food, but it really became about community and creating that sense of connection with different people and what that really meant to live in a space. So I'm going to take you guys around Brooklyn, show you my favorite spots in Williamsburg, give you a sense of what the city's like right now, how it's changed, where's some spots you can go, but really like what is the heart of this place and why is it so valuable to come live here? Let's do it. Let's go check out Egg. This is Mass Brothers here, which is like the premier chocolate place in Brooklyn. A friend of mine used to work there. It's really good, simple chocolate. Egg, this is like the top brunch spot. It used to be the most popular spot when it was across the street from my apartment. They moved it here. I'm not sure how well it's doing now, but people still love to go here, and usually on the weekends there's a line out the door and a long wait. Epic, iconic diner. It was the white diner, but now it's La Esquina. Which you can kind of see there's a little thing over the white diner that lights up. It's just a really nice sort of taco Mexican food spot. Metropolitan between Berry and Wythe, and the living room used to be an iconic venue actually, like in the Lower East Side slash sort of East Village area, and they moved it over here. Now it's much more a bigger kind of warehouse style spot, but they have a lot of good bands playing. Over here, this little sort of unassuming spot is actually Nighthawk Cinema, which is a pretty dope spot. It's one of the first places that you can go see a movie and get a nice meal with the movie. Williamsburg is the insane amount of construction happening at any given time. They're putting up some huge high-rise. Crazy about Williamsburg is no matter how many times I come here, it always is continually changing. It seems like you go away for a week and you come back and there's new restaurants and new apartment buildings and stuff. So it is become full-on Manhattan when it comes to endless building and changing, but there's still a lot of heart here, a lot of charm. You're coming upon one of my absolute favorite music stores of all time. There are only 2 music shops in Williamsburg. One was Southside Guitars, which I'm not even sure if it's still open, but the main mecca, main drag. I used to come here all the time to buy pedals, strings, check out guitars. Unlike a lot of places like Guitar Center that are more like big and corporate, Main Drag is very homegrown. So most of the guitars there are guitars that have been traded in, so you can find a lot of really cool vintage stuff. You can get vintage amps, you can sell stuff there, you can buy stuff. Also, the people are very knowledgeable. So say you need to get a guitar repair, you can take it in. They have a guy that works on the guitars, a luthier. But also if you just want to learn about different pedals and amps and stuff, it's not like they're just working there. These people are musicians and they really care. Famous spot coming up here. Pies and Thighs. Blink. So between Driggs and Roebling, if you kind of, Driggs is down that way, kind of head this way towards Roebling, there's this bike path right here. And this is, you know, the Williamsburg Bridge, but you can bike right over it. The walking path is by Bedford, but it's a great walk. We used to take this walk all the time, right into the city, right into an awesome area. Welcome to Peter Luger's. Maybe the most famous steakhouse in the entire world. But we're not here for steak, we're here for burgers. That's the best way to start a food tour because I just ate so much, but it was worth it. And as much as I love the steak, getting the burgers is a great hack because you take all the bits from the steak that are left over and they grind it up into a burger, so it's a lot cheaper, but you can still get great quality meat. Genius. So Peter Luger's was definitely not originally a stop on my tour. I almost forgot about it because it's kind of further up on the outskirts of Bedford, but I'm headed over to Make Bistro's house. Derek Lucci, you've probably seen a bunch of our videos. He's our Thai cooking master of sorts, and he lives right by a spot called Baby's Alright. I'm gonna pop by and say hello. But Baby's Alright's a really cool music venue. They have great food, and it's chilling. No! I'm coming up!
If you talk about Williamsburg back in the day, it wasn't a desirable place to be. there was, you know, it was a lot of crime here. So there's always someone gentrifying. So people are always saying, oh, there goes the neighborhood, and it's like, yeah, but it's already been, everyone's contributing to that. So it's absurd to claim that you are, you know, one of the first. I mean, it was great because when I first came here, there were a lot more music venues, so there was a lot of music going on, there's a lot of art, so I think a lot of people come here for those things. And on the subject of gentrification, it's just that people, like in New York, when the rents go up and artists can't do what they want to do, it tends to push them out. And that's everywhere in the world, you know.
Bread Brothers Bagel Cafe. So this used to be the bagel store, which there were two bagel shops when I moved in. There's Bagel Smith and the Bagel Store, and there was always this rivalry. And the bagel store got bought out for an Apple store, which we'll see in a little bit. We are on Bedford and South 4th. This is kind of like the tip of Williamsburg. It does go out further, but in terms of like where you want to go, I'd say South 5th, walk all the way down Bedford, all the way up to about North 12th when you hit the park. And you can sort of take all the side streets. There's a cool, you know, on Berry, Driggs, and Wythe, Kent, cool side streets. So Bedford is the absolute main strip. So this spot, Bread Brothers Bagel Cafe, they changed their name from the bagel store, but the owner is like, he's got this lab. We actually shot with him for MTV. He's got this lab downstairs. He's kind of like a mad scientist, always working on crazy bagels. He made a bagel out of ramen, but they became super famous for this rainbow bagel. It's like, kind of looks like this confetti rainbowness. So I'm gonna grab one. They have crazy cream cheeses, and we'll check it out. So just like straight sugar on sugar. Let's do it. I'll do the rainbow bagel with funfetti. The classic, the quintessential Instagram bagel shot right there. So I got some of the inside scoop. So the reason they changed the name is because I guess there was a change in management, maybe some issues. I don't want to get into drama, but the bagel store, there's another bagel store, which the guy that was like the creative brain behind this, Scott, he still owns the bagel store. So that's on Metropolitan, kind of on the other side of Williamsburg, more East Williamsburg. And if you go over there, they have crazy stuff. But I mean, you can see this place. Scott really like created all these crazy donuts. The red velvet donut, the French toast donut. There's like a bacon, egg, and cheese donut. He just kind of pushed the boundaries and was really smart with like the sort of trend world that we're in today. People want to see crazy stuff. And this is the rainbow donut. I keep saying donut, but I mean bagel. These are all bagels, folks. That was all wrong. He really kind of hit that Instagram trend with the bagels. So you got the rainbow bagel with the, I guess, funfetti cake. It's literally cake and cream cheese mixed together, and that's what I'm gonna be eating. So I'll probably die in about 8 seconds, but I'm happy about it. Cake inside of a bagel. Wow, not a straight dessert. Brooklyn Gourmet Deli. So this place has moved. It used to be North 5th in Bedford. I actually didn't realize it was here. I just ran into the original owner because I used to come in there all the time. It's my favorite spot to get a sandwich. Pretty cheap sandwich you can get like on a Kaiser roll or a long roll, and I would get like a chicken cutlet with bacon and cheese and ranch and avocado and come with the side of a banana. And I would just eat that and have it for 2 meals. I usually crush it in 1 meal, but if I could make it for 2 meals, I'd eat it for 2 meals across the street. South 2nd in Bedford, there's just a lot of bars, little restaurants, just kind of as you walk down. I just always tell people if you want to kind of get a sense of Williamsburg, start on one side of Bedford, you know, around South 5th and walk all the way to the park, McCarran Park. So we're going to do that, but there's all these cool side streets so you can veer off any street. Bedford and Williamsburg in general is known for fashion, food, great restaurants, bars, a lot of local music venues, although honestly a lot of like the more kind of grungy local venues. The DIY spots we used to play at are gone. There's much nicer venues because the place is just like popping off, but it's still a cool spot to go. I recommend coming and check it out if you want fashion, you want food, you want good vibes. There's Smorgasburg on the weekends, which is just like 100+ food vendors everywhere. But we're coming up to Grand Street right now. And Grand Street, there's along Bedford, there's two sort of main side streets that go off. You have Grand that runs adjacent, I guess you would call it, and then you also have Metropolitan, and you can kind of take them either way, and there's lots of restaurants and cool vibes. So we hit Grand in Bedford right now, and basically there's a lot of really cool restaurants if you walk up Grand this way. Down here you actually start to hit the water. There's some cool spots here as well, but one of my favorite spots, Caracas, is down there. It's like an arepa place. There's Also the Williamsburg Cinema, which is like the main movie theater, going down that way. But we're gonna go over here now, right by North First and Bedford is the Bedford Cheese Shop. It used to be at North 4th, and it was a small little spot. It was always the most intimidating place in the world, because the first time I went, I saw there was like a cheese there, and it was like $98 a pound, and I didn't see anything else, and I kind of freaked out and was like, I can't afford this, so I like left. But I started going back later on. They have really amazing cheeses from imported all around the world. This is their new spot. It's probably about 10 times the size. I've actually never been into the new one. They just opened up recently. But if you want to get amazing cheeses from all over, and very knowledgeable cheese people, I don't know what you call a cheese person, but a cheese people, check it out.
Yeah, jam perhaps.
That's good. You know, I'll do just like a quarter pound of that. A little taste of something. This is where the quintessential changes at Williamsburg has happened. If you look down here, there's a food town, and at the time, this is your nice kind of average market, but they used to have this more local market called Tops that we used to go to. Then this came in and sort of pushed Tops out, but now in the last 6 months to a year, there's a Whole Foods, and that's just when you know the neighborhood's officially changed. A Whole Foods and an Apple store, which like when I first moved here, there was an American Apparel, and that was pretty much like the only like name brand. It was all like mom and pop stores, very like local stuff, local restaurants, local bars, local music venues, and now you're starting to see more chains and stuff. But the Apple store was kind of like, and Whole Foods, right in the same street, was sort of like, okay, this place has officially changed. Now like the amount of building going on here is insane. The subway station is so packed all the time. I ended up moving from here to East Williamsburg, and now, you know, in Sunset Park, but I lived here for 5 years, and when I first moved here, it was like when things were just starting to change, and in the course of 5 years, this was like when I was first starting the cooking game. Mike and I were catering. Anytime I needed specialty equipment, whisk, this is like the only store. It's either like go to a market and get cheap stuff, or come here and get literally anything you wanted. They expanded, so now they have like all kinds of interesting gadgets and cooking tools, but at the time it was a great place if I wanted like a pasta maker, ice cream machine, cheesecloth, any of that kind of stuff. Check that out. And this is on North 4th in Bedford. And then just a quick note, you've got on 4th this way, there is a place called Sweet Greens. So you can kind of see the sign down there. You don't have to go check it out, but Sweet Greens has become a chain. You know, they're still a smaller company, but they're popping up all over New York City. It's a great place to just get a salad. You can kind of custom build your own salads, and they also have options. But a great spot to just get a quick, delicious, and affordable salad with local ingredients. We're approaching North 5th and Bedford, and this is where all the magic initially happened. So I'm going to take a few minutes to kind of go through everything with you guys. But North 5th and Bedford is the first place I ever lived in a magical building that I did not know was going to change the course of my life forever. There's a mini mall. This is the building. This is a magical building. There's a mini mall in there with little shops, and there's a bookstore and stuff. It's always changing. And there's a Joe's Pizza, which came in a couple years ago, famous spot for New York. But come with me, because I have something special to show you. So that is an Easter egg. If you can find that, that sticker was my band sticker. You can see it's still right by the piano in there. And this is the first place I ever lived in Brooklyn. I lived there for 5 years, and it literally changed my entire life. Little did I know, moving into this spot that had no bedrooms and no kitchen when we first moved in, that everything from then on out would be different. It's across the street from Juliet. So I used to see people like Zach Galifianakis. He used to live here when I first moved here, and I'd see him around the street a lot, just being weird. But a very, very famous spot people would eat at, and they have their little rooftop area. But our room became so popular, people used to always look in, so they had to start putting up plants and stuff, because we always had parties and weird shit going on. So today it's been rainy, but when it's not rainy, usually between 6th and 7th on Bedford, they just have books for sale. I bought some of the best books ever right there. And some books that actually really changed my life. I bought this book on Buddhism, book on tarot card reading. I bought like great Kurt Vonnegut books. A lot of like, you'll see a lot of mixed stuff, but a lot of like philosophical things. I'd be walking by one day and be like, oh, what's that? Pick it up, start reading it. And next thing you know, like my whole mind is blown and my life is going in a new direction. That's what I love about the spirit of here. You never know who you're gonna meet from what place around the world. Like there's so much cultural diversity. Everyone's also beautiful. You're like, is everyone just a model here? It makes no sense. Oh yeah, so they're talking about Spike Hill. It used to be an amazing music venue that closed down. Play a lot of shows there. But this is what we're really after. Bagel Smith. This is the first place. I probably used to eat here every single day when I first moved in because I had no kitchen. And you can get a bagel. I had the cheapest thing, get a bagel with butter. It was like $1.20. But 24 hours. And so it was either like that or a bodega. So we used to come here all the time, like 4 in the morning, super late, just like walking in, like, oh, I just need a bagel. So I'm gonna go in and grab something and then come back out. A $10 bagel. You guys, a lot different from my $1 bagel. The prices have gone up. Wow. So this is my trick. I would get the grilled chicken cutlet or the fried chicken cutlet, but then I get a flavored cream cheese. This is like a bacon scallion. So you get the bacon on there with the cream cheese, and this would last me 2 meals usually. Oh, I got it. All right, so we're at North 7th in Bedford. This is like the absolute crazy hub because the subway's here. But across the street, this place Oasis, they have falafel. We used to get falafel all the time. It was like a $3 meal. You could get this beautiful thing of falafel. I don't know what the price is now, but still, if you want just like a good solid falafel sandwich with anything you want stuffed into it, Oasis. Oh, there's my favorite, North 7th right over there. That's taco truck, my favorite taco truck. Right across from Starbucks, which wasn't there when I was here. Neither was Dunkin' Donuts. So it's kind of funny because you see like all these spots that are here from 10 years ago mixed in with stuff that is completely like, you know, corporate bullshit. Speaking of a spot, Anna Maria's. So, 2 places that I used to eat at all the time. Anna Maria's is an amazing, just like classic New York pizza spot. Like one of those classic, has a million toppings kind of place. So the first time I came here, 2007, we were looking for apartments and we were really hungry. It was kind of the end of the day and we thought we had all but given up. And I just wanted some food, and the only thing that I really recognized was pizza, because I wasn't a foodie. I'm not a foodie now, but I wasn't like a super food person back then. I enjoyed cooking, but I didn't know much about food, so I was like, just give me some damn pizza. But then we discovered this place, the Charleston, which at the time it was $5. I think it might still be the same deal. Yeah. It was $5 for a beer, and then every beer you bought, you got a free personal pizza. So for a week straight, I lived there basically. It was a little personal pizza with a beer, and it was amazing. But after a week of doing that, you're like, I can never do that again. Let's go to Anna Maria's though. What do you guys got?
I just inhaled the eggplant parm.
Jesus.
She has the lasagna, and then we also have the spicy chicken vegetable.
Yeah, that's what I love about the menu. It's just like, it's basically you have like a whole meal.
Yeah.
People used to say, if you could only eat one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be? And I'd say pizza, but with the caveat that I could have any topping.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's like eating a
You
salad.
can go healthy, you can go not healthy.
It's like a blank canvas.
Yeah. You have their artists here.
Cool, I'm gonna get a slice. With that beautiful pizza. So this place has like just crazy slices. They have a chicken Caesar slice, they have a barbecue chicken, of course they have the plain slices, but they like everything you could ever imagine on a pizza is in here. This is the chicken, bacon, and ranch, a personal favorite. You eat one of these things, you won't be walking for about a week, but it's delicious. When I started realizing that pizza could be more than just pepperoni or sausage, it came an open blank canvas to do anything. This is actually one of the first places that inspired me to make really creative pizzas, because we would go home, whatever ingredients we had around the house, we would cook these epic pizza parties. And coming to this place, you're like, wow, you really can put literally anything on a pizza. Think of any meal you like, throw it on some cheese, sauce, and bread, you're in for a good time. So there's this place called Mama Pho, which used to have a different name, and that was the first time I ever tried a banh mi, and I was blown away. I couldn't believe that a sandwich could taste so good, especially because I was used to like bodega sandwiches and making my own. I had never had a Vietnamese sandwich. But the meatball shop, a number of years ago, opened up. Actually, one of my friends, his cousin is the creator and owner. Now they're all over the city, and these guys are famous, but you basically go in, You pick what kind of meatballs you want. There's lots of different types of meatballs, and you can get sides, and you can get on a sandwich. But that's a dope spot. We're gonna keep walking though to another pizza place called Vinny's. In case you didn't notice, there's lots of pizza in Brooklyn. New York in general is famous for pizza. But when you're moving to New York City and you're broke and you're in a band and you're struggling to get by, you gotta focus on the cheap eats. There's always great restaurants you could go out to, but I found that I either cooked or I would grab like a slice of pizza or a falafel or a bagel or something. And Vinny's was a very innovative spot, kind of like Anna Maria's, except they also had vegan pizzas. And a good friend of mine, me here, works at Vinny's. He actually works at the one in Greenpoint, but we're in Williamsburg, so we're gonna go to the one in Williamsburg. And it's right between 8th and 9th on Bedford, and it's delicious.
Platform, spare rib pineapple,
Whoa.
spicy chicken jalapeno, barbecue chicken. and
Spare rib pineapple, you said that, and
Boom,
I was
done.
like, I've never heard of that. I didn't even know that could exist. Yes, one please. One of the big things that they're also famous for is they make, if you look close, they draw every day. They have like their special, and they draw these amazing pictures of like Buddy Crust and Vinny's, the Keenan and Kale. Like they kind of have these themes on, like Zelda themed, Kale Hawthorne, Pepper Jack White, you know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a good day. Oh, my favorite bench of all time. So this is they said vegan spare rib and pineapple, which I've never had a spare rib and pineapple that's actually spare rib and pineapple, let alone vegan. But it looks beautiful. Very different, like, different style than Anna Maria's. They both have a lot of crazy toppings, but you can see the pizza's made and crafted very differently. I think they're a little more liberal over at Anna Maria's. Well, crispier pizza. Mmm. An Anna Maria slice will fill you up more. But Vinny's, I feel like it's a little more of a balanced craft, you know? Both good. So we're entering the McCarran Park territory. So from 9th to 12th on Bedford, there's some cool little restaurants and bars. There's a spot called the Soft Spot, but this is the main park. So on the one side over here, you have just kind of like your concrete, you know, tennis courts and stuff, and then you have the park. We'll go check out the park right now. And I spent a lot of time here. I would come down with friends, we'd have guitars and we would jam. I would do like juggling lessons for people. We go this way. Yeah, McCarran's a cool park, pretty simple, a couple of baseball fields. There's a big open field. We used to play ultimate frisbee here. We used to teach juggling lessons. I was really into juggling. I had like an obsession with juggling for a while. We would come do picnics, music. When it snowed, we'd play in the snow. You've got this side, then the other side, a little further down, is they have a big track. There's a pool, so in the summer they used to have concerts, but now it's really get back to being a pool. And it's just a beautiful place to come hang out. What I'd say is like, go to some of the little bodegas, little markets, get some stuff like hummus and stuff, make a little picnic for yourself, come out here, chill out. We're gonna walk up Driggs. You've got Driggs going over this way, and you've got Berry. Towards the other side is the waterfront. You know, we'll probably go check that out if we have some time. But I used to have a band studio over there, right by the gutter, which the gutter is a bowling alley. So the gutter was always like the bowling alley, but it looked just like a gutter. It was kind of like a shithole. And they ended up adding a venue. They made it a little bit nicer, but then came Brooklyn Bowl, and Brooklyn Bowl is a massive venue. Amazing food by Blue Ribbon, like fried chicken and sandwiches, good drinks, great bands always playing. There's a lot of like hip hop, jam bands, DJs there. They of course have bowling alley, and they always treated the bands really well. So we had a green room. They would give you a $25 food stipend. They would give you like 3 drink tickets. So by the time you're ready to play, you're already feeling, ah. But I love playing at Brooklyn Bowl. It was a huge venue. It probably held like 500 plus people. Now there's one in London. There's one in Las Vegas. So I recommend if you want just like a fun time, see what kind of concerts. There used to be a lot more indie kind of DIY venues. Glasslands is gone. I used to play there all the time. There's Cameo is still around, I believe. Knitting Factory is another great spot off Metropolitan. So there's a lot of newer venues popping up. It's not like there are less music venues than there were, but there are less kind of like divey venues and more like nicer sort of Manhattan. See, what happened was they started building the high-rises, all these people that were living in Manhattan that wanted more space or couldn't afford Manhattan started moving here. So on the water, they put a ferry going right to Manhattan. So people could get these beautiful homes, which to us artists who are struggling to survive, they were way too expensive. But if you're coming from Manhattan, all of a sudden now you're getting a much bigger place and you've got this beautiful view right on the water. So it became this huge balance, but it drove up real estate. It drove up what kind of places were coming here. So Williamsburg is a lot more crowded than it used to be, but it's all within change. I'm okay with change. When I moved here, it started to quote unquote gentrify. And this was probably the first place that, like, when you think of the word hipster, Williamsburg is where the hipster began. But what I started to see about hipster is there's something about the vibe of a hipster. It wasn't just like the look, you know, it wasn't just like the tight pants and the glasses and the hair or whatever. It was also a vibe, and to me it was a little bit too cool for school. I wasn't a big fan of that. So I started calling myself and my friends Hipsters. And it was more like we look like hipsters, but we're happy, positive people. And through that, we created a world for ourselves. So now we're walking up Driggs, North 11th, by the park. You've got a cool millennial market, which is kind of like your organic market. It's definitely not cheap, but if you go down this way, if you're on North 11th, there's a Yoga for the People and a natural wine. And the Yoga for the People is like one of those pay what you want donation-based yoga classes, very, very popular. They pack it out, and they have this one at sunset with candlelit. Awesome way to do yoga if you're into that. You are, you know, on that artist budget. You don't really shop at designing clothes spots, but you still want to look cool, right? So I would go to vintage stores like this one, Monk. It's kind of like your like 60s, 70s rock and roll vintage store. And right next to it is Buffalo Exchange, a spot where a lot of people will go and sell clothing so they can make more money to buy more clothing. And they have a lot of cool stuff here. It's a great way to get good stuff for really cheap. Sometimes you have to spend a little more extra time looking, but a lot of people go here to get whatever kind of clothes you want. There's also a spot called Crossroads not far by. And those are the main places that I would shop at to get clothing. And people would be like, wow, that's such a cool, you know, shirt or pants. How did you get that? And I would always just say thrift store. And it was a way to like kind of customize and create a really cool look for yourself without spending too much money. You can go and get like a shirt for $5 and whatnot. I don't like those vintage places where everything's like more expensive than regular clothing places. I like to find the ones where everything's super cheap. That's so dope. So there's a couple restaurants right here. We're on North 7th and Driggs, right by Bedford. This is the other side, the same train station, the other side of it. So if you get out on one side and you're not on Bedford, it's because you ended up on Driggs. Don't freak out. But Criff Dog is a cool late night open spot with like kind of creative hot dogs. There's also a spot right over here, El Almazan, which is like really good sort of Spanish food. Just like they have like, the first time I ever had blood sausage was there. It's just like delicious tapas and things. There's Aqua Santa, really nice Italian spot with like outdoor garden. A lot of these places like are unassuming and you walk in, they have like some beautiful outdoor garden or something. And of course Two Boots, that's more of a, kind of like more of a New York chain, classic kind of deal. The only other thing that's worth mentioning on this street is right here, this huge vintage. It's not clothing, but it's just like, it's basically like if every grandmother in the world just dumped her shit off, it would be this place. You walk in, there's just like endless antiques. I think there's no even sign. I think it's called Home, but there's no sign anymore. It's just, you just assume you walk in, you can buy a lot of cheap stuff there. But now we're coming around North 6th. I've got a friend who lives by here. I'm gonna see if I can knock on the door, say hello. Then. Hey! Bro.
Nice to see you. Oh my God.
I'm kind of trying to get a sense of what it was like what your world was before you moved to Williamsburg.
Before?
And sort of, like where were you at right before you moved here, and then what was it for you?
Well, I was just like some weird little yoga kid just hanging out in the redwood forest with really a very just like limited view of the world and the people I was around. I was really just like on a self-spirit pursuit. And I wanted something more. It wasn't fulfilling whatever I was going after. And I just remember in yoga, literally like, you know how you do an intention before every class or whatever? I was literally like, please someone get me out of here every day. And literally 2 dudes from New York, Stefan and Doug, showed up and scooped me up into their little van world, and we took off on an adventure, and they were really starting to like tell me about Williamsburg, really. They're like, dude, you totally dig Williamsburg, and like, you should like run around with your guitar. I was like, okay, yes. Okay, that sounds like what I want to do. Yeah.
And so my only other question is just Williamsburg in general, like what were your favorite sort of spots or venues? And I mean, I know it's changing a lot.
Man, oh yeah, it's changed so much. I mean, all these corporations everywhere, that's so weird. That was like one of the first things that I noticed coming back into the neighborhood once they all started popping up. But I mean, my favorite things about this neighborhood, I mean, first off the people. You have to start with the people, and wherever they are, that's one of my favorite spots. And I mean, like McCarran Park just like opened up so much heart for me. And I mean, just like, damn, you know, what is it about? I mean, I love like Pete's Candy Store, you know, just like hanging out in there. I like Bagel Smith for some reason is like my haven, and then the Oasis, the falafel. Oh my gosh, that like saved my life and helped me pay for rent forever.
I think one of the big things in Williamsburg, like when we moved here, you know, this whole gentrification change thing, like do you think change is good? Is it bad? Like having, you know, Apple stores?
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, the stories that I hear from the local people here in Williamsburg, you know, like, I mean, there's so many, but, you know, the first day I moved into the church, you know, there's a senior home next door, and the woman, there was a senior woman sitting on a bench, and she looked at me and she's like, "Oh, you live in that church?" She's like, "You're the devil." And I was like, "What?" She's like, I've been going to that church since I was, you know, a child," and she was now probably in her 80s. And I really just had this moment where I just felt like sad, you know, because I was like, wow, like we are responsible in some way for like her losing her holy place and the place where she's prayed her whole life. And so like I sat with her for a few hours, and we wound up becoming friends, and then she invited me to come over to play bingo with all of her friends. I invited them over to have lunch here at the church, and so there's been a lot of stories like that from the locals, and just like I like to know like who are the originators, or the original settlers of like neighborhoods, you know. So I've met so many people in the neighborhood that are still doing their best to try to afford to live here, but also just the history, you know.
So now we're gonna head west towards the water. We haven't explored yet, but Kent is the last street in Williamsburg. It's right by the water, and there's really cool parks over there and a lot of good restaurants and stuff. So let's check it out. Gotta top the day off with some ice cream. So, Van Leeuwen's, they make regular ice cream, but they also make vegan. Got a matcha and a PB&J chocolate chip. That's really freaking good. These are both vegan. What's cool about Van Leeuwen's, when I first moved here in 07, they were just one little truck. And a friend of mine, Ricky, who we kind of reconnected in New York, but he was actually one of my first best friends as a kid. Someone he went to college with started Van Leeuwen's, and now they are like one of the biggest ice cream stores probably the biggest in Brooklyn. They have shops everywhere, trucks, ice cream in stores. That's fucking good. The pier on North 5th and Bedford. When I first moved here, none of this was here. It was completely just desolate, a lot of warehouses, so it's been building up. It's become one of those popular places to live. But if you walk along Kent, along the water, there's North 5th Pier. On about North 8th, there's a huge park that we used to go to all the time. I'd like to come here and I would contemplate if I had to watch one natural disaster movie from this side safely, like Independence Day or King Kong, one of those big disaster films, not natural disaster, but if I had to watch one big disaster film, I would ask people, like, would you watch King Kong, Independence Day, Godzilla, what would it be? But this is just a great place to come out and hang. And Williamsburg in general has just meant so much to me. It's changed my life forever. Check it out, or create your own Williamsburg anywhere. At the end of the day, it's about a feeling you create. It's not about a specific place.